Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Active Action Podcast. It's me, your host, Nazif, back again with another amazing guest. And today I have with us Ari Rastegar. Ari is the founder and CEO of the Rastegar Capital, a leading real estate investment fund. So Ari Rastegar is a real estate investor, author, and entrepreneur known for turning failure into long-term leverage. And he started with just $2,500 loan while studying at a law school. He went on to building a multi-billion dollar real estate portfolio. And along that way, he learned that real success isn't just about capital, but it's about clarity, resilience, and health as well. And today, Ari shares hard-earned lessons on building sustainable success from inside out, where he consistently delivers throughout the content and brings an engaged audience of more than 750,000 followers across different social media platforms. That's huge. Thank you so much, Ari, for joining today's podcast. How are you doing this evening, my man?
I'm living the dream.
Wonderful, Ari. I'm so happy to have you in my podcast today and hoping that our listeners would be benefited from our conversations and the wonderful story that you have overturned and built this empire and having such a huge number of followers. I know people look into you as role models for businesses, for advices. So I'm happy to have you in my episode to share some of that word of wisdom with you, Ari, this evening.
Happy to be here.
Ari, so you have built a success in high pressure environments, if I understand. What did you learn about yourself through going on those moments and when even things didn't go as planned?
Well, thank you for the question. Whenever you're after something that's bigger than you, and I say that because wherever your level of consciousness is, wherever your level of thinking is, when you're pushing for something new, you have to grow. If it's looking to make more money, if it's looking to change your body, to your health, to travel, whatever you're doing, you're looking to push a boundary. And when you're pushing a boundary, you're changing. And when you're changing, that requires growth. And growth requires pressure. Just if you're lifting weights, if you want to grow your muscles, you push pressure. But coal is going to become a diamond, it requires pressure. The universal truth of any type of growth is pressure. And so
Right,
one of the
that's true.
great skills that we can learn as human beings is to be able to be calm in pressure. And one of the greatest tools that I've learned for this is meditation. And I know a lot of people have talked about meditation, and there is many different kinds. There's a Vedic tradition. I've recently done a lot of work with Dr. Joe Dispenza. And if you all know Dr. Joe, and if you don't, you should absolutely look him up. He's a phenomenal neuroscientist, teacher, professor that has really created a way to make science the language of mysticism, for now we can see what happens to our heart when we start to come into a more meditative state, to look at our brain waves and see what happens, because now we can look at heart scans and see what the heart rate variability of a heart with anxiety looks like. Then we can see what a heart with gratitude looks like. And there's ways that we can train ourselves through this practice to have a more coherent heart and a more coherent mind. And those things allow us to live a more coherent life. And so no matter what you're after, no matter what your goal is, no matter what you're looking to achieve, overly amounts of stress. And trust me, I've been there. I wrote a whole book about failure, and I can only speak to this to you because I've done it so bad for so long that desperation led me to change. And that's what usually happens. It's not inspiration that makes us change. In my experience, it's necessity that makes us change. And I found that being able to have a practice of stillness where I can close my eyes and go into a place where I can focus on the space around my body and be able to calm my mind and calm my brain, that is preparation for activity, so that before you go out in the day, all of a sudden, we've all done this. We wake up and immediately we look at our phone and we're in a hurry and you're jumping around, you're getting ready and you're chasing the kids and you're trying to eat something on the run. This type of behavior is not conducive to the type of thoughtful, calm, patient, tactical approach to build things that are meaningful, to build, this type of person doesn't sound like a boss you want to have, doesn't sound like a CEO you want to have, or a leader you want to have, or a dad that's just jumping up and running around the road, trying to get kids ready, running around like crazy. So, so if we can take a moment and we can invest in ourselves to calm the mind, even for 5 minutes, and so we can start our day, or in the middle of the day when we get stressed and we reach for the extra coffee or something, if we can take a moment to pause and reset the body and go after the things we're doing, it is a phenomenal tool, phenomenal gift to help everything in your life come from a deeper empathetic place, from a deeper calm, from a place of more balance and more harmony. And I run a very big business, as you said. I'm a father of three. And these are things that have helped me so profoundly deal with anything when the world is kicking at you, emails and text messages and begging for your attention, jumping here and there. But if we can take a moment to center, to physically center and make that a part of our practice, we put ourselves in a position where we can thrive in anything that we're doing.
That's so wonderful to hear, Ari. And many of us, don't put that perspective or don't put that time, as you mentioned, invest yourself to know what is good for your mental well-being, but also how, to prioritize your work. You are a family man. I can see you have a father of three, but you also have a multi-billion-dollar business. So navigating those two very different situations and very different scenarios does demand, having a mental, a mental calmness and peace and stability to navigate effectively both ways. Ari, again, I wanted to ask you, you have seen everything in life. You started with a $350,000, $3,500 loan when you were in law school, and now you're the CEO and founder of a multi-billion-dollar business. I know that you have gone through the pipeline of being in between failure and success. A lot of our audiences are currently, struggling on their very initial phase of life. And so from your experience, is there a difference between failing and being a failure? And if so, how do people mentally cross that line and how do they come back from it?
Well, I'll tell you, thank you for the question again, because questions are the answer. Amateurs look for answers, professionals seek better questions. And I'll tell
Indeed.
you, yes, that there is a huge difference. The only true failure is quitting. Otherwise, it's not failure, it's temporary defeat. And my definition now of failure is learning how to win. Everybody that learns any skill, anybody listening to this that has learned some skill, you say, "Oh, I haven't learned anything." Well, you learned how to walk. You learned how to talk at the very least. And didn't you stutter at first? Didn't you talk like that? When you first learned to stand up, didn't you fall down? And then didn't you get back up? Didn't you say a word wrong? And then you practice it and you said it right? Failure is the human process of how we learn. Okay. And the difference is the greatest achievers in the world fail more, not less. And the difference is they keep going. So if you're right now listening to this and you're failing, I'd like to congratulate you because you are actually starting to win. You're actually separating yourself from those poor,
Mm-hmm.
timid souls that don't even try.
Mm-hmm.
They just sit on the couch or they sit somewhere else and they don't even attempt. So if you are failing, that means you're courageous. It means that you're brave. It means that you're in the arena. It means that you're doing it. And my wish for you is I hope you fail. And I hope you fail a lot because it's in that failure, it's in that pain, it's in that suffering, it's in those dark nights of the soul that you grow, that you overcome your old self to become the person. This is the gift because problems, When I say problem to you, everybody immediately probably thinks bad, right? The great tragedy of humans is that we think we're not supposed to have problems. Everybody has problems. Here's a new definition for you. Ready?
Yeah, sure.
Problems are the gifts that we grow from. If you didn't have a problem, you wouldn't have the opportunity to grow.
So true, Ari. That's so true. And I know you speak from experience. Again, a tunnel has
Oh,
two
I speak from
sides.
from a lot of experience of fucking every single thing up possible.
I'm sure you
I have
do.
the
Yeah.
only thing I've gotten very good at is
Yeah. You
failing.
lived through those experiences, right? Yeah.
And I'm still here. I'm still here. I have more gray hair.
Indeed.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a little bruised. I'm a little tired. My head is bloody, but my head is unbowed. My chin is up. And this is the difference. We're not told that we're supposed to fail. We're not
Right.
told that it's supposed to be hard. It's meant to be hard. Just if you're doing bench press, you're pushing the
So
bench
true.
press. The first rep of lightweight, nothing happens. The second weight, lightweight, nothing happens. On the last one or two,
Everything is so sore.
95% of the growth happens in the last 2 reps. This is the same in everything.
That's so true. Ari, so then when someone actually faces that failure, we know the failure would actually take them to success at one point. But
If
I
they don't,
know,
well, let's talk about that for a second.
okay,
Not
sure.
necessarily, but let me tell you, there's a formula, I think. You fail, okay? And I failed a lot. Read my book, The Gift of Failure.
Mhm.
If you read my book or you listen to it on Spotify, you can buy it on Amazon or Audible. The first line of the book is, I hope you fail. I hope you fail a lot. Okay. And in some of these soul crushing failures I experienced in business and health, in life and different things, the thing that I've learned, okay, is that when you fail, not if, when, you're going to fail
Mhm.
in whatever. And so you might as well
Mhm.
shoot big. You might as well try to do something big, because either you're going to fail real small and win small, but if you at least shoot big, you'll fail big and then you can make it big. So if you're trying to fail, you're going to fail no matter what you do. You can fail at a little job or you could fail at a big job. I prefer to try to fail at a big job, and I recommend that as well. Because you're going to fail anyway.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if you keep going, then you'll succeed. But one of the key ingredients is when you fail at something, most people who are ambitious, let's
Mhm.
say, get back up. Good for you,
Right.
because you have to keep
Resilient
going.
people, right? Yeah.
Resilient people get
Those who
back
are
up.
resilient, yeah.
But I highly recommend you don't get back up so quickly. I recommend
Okay,
that
that's
when you fall
interesting.
and you land on your back, lay there. Lay there for a little bit and think about what went wrong, what went right, what happened. Trace your steps. When you look at the best athletes in the world, okay, one of the things they all do, they watch film. They watch hours and hours and hours and hours of their own games, of their competitors, watching every move of what happened, what went wrong in a play, what went right in a play. Same thing you should do in your life. Lay on your back for a little bit. Don't get up so quickly. Lay there. And first of all, don't get too comfortable, because you don't want to be there for too long, but you want to be
That's
there
true.
enough to know what went wrong, what went right. And then when you realize what went wrong and what went right, you can do what went right again, and what went wrong, not to do that again. And you can learn the lesson, because you have to have introspection to look back, find out what went wrong, ask why it went wrong, learn, then get back up. It is only a gift if you look back and you learn and you let failure be feedback and then persist in what you're doing.
That's one of the most valuable advices I've gotten in such a long time, Ari. Everyone just, says that, okay, so you have failed, so you'll get back up and just regain that strength. But a very important thing that I have learned, if I do fail, then just take the time to reflect. Just lay low, but not, again, not get too
Beautiful.
comfortable, but understand
Beautiful.
why that happened, right?
Take a nap. Think of it taking a little nap. You don't want to sleep there. You don't want to sleep down there, but you might want
Hmm.
to take a nap
Yeah, for
and
sure, for sure.
sit with it. Sit with it for a second. Sit with yourself and figure out what the fuck went wrong and also what went right. Because it's not everything went wrong. You breathed, you got to eat, you met some nice people, you try. So it's not, oh, everything went to shit. That's bullshit too. Don't lie. Some things were right. Some things were good. Some things were enjoyable. Some things you want to do again, and just take inventory of what it is and maybe get a piece of paper. Benjamin Franklin used to, whenever before he was going to make a decision,
Hmm.
he would take a piece of paper and draw a line in the middle and write the pros of why to do it, the cons of why not to do it. And it sounds very simple, but this is a very simple exercise where you can write down after this failure, you lie down there, you take a little nap, you take a little breather. You have
Hmm.
to you have to rest, recharge before going at it again. Just when you go to the gym and you do a very hard workout, are you supposed to go to the gym the next day again?
Just rest for a bit, regain that,
That's when muscles
composure.
grow. This is when muscles grow. Is during the
Indeed,
rest. The
indeed.
push is when you're ripping the muscle apart. The rest and the recovery is when you're growing. And this is the same for your emotions and your psychology. Push, fail, rest, figure out a plan, get back up. Experiment, experience, repeat over and over again till you fail so much that one day you realize that you were a success all along.
So wonderful, Ari, to hear. And thank you so much for sharing those words of wisdom, by the way, and I'm sure our listeners would understand the deep meaning, the inner meaning that you have been like telling them about taking the time to step back to assess the situation before diving into that. Because without like thinking, without reflecting, just diving back every time can lead to failure again and again, which someone might don't want to. Again, Ari, I wanted to ask you another important aspect is that transparency is always helpful, or transparency is important even when someone is reflecting their own self to others, or even when we are mixing in the society, even when we're talking ourselves to ourselves. It's often seen in competitive industries, people to hide their losses. They want to show themselves as prosperous. They're very good. That is what we see in the television. That is what we see when we see someone successful. We don't know what went behind them.
This is just not reality. We
Yeah.
can't confuse Instagram, Photoshop with
Hmm.
reality. Okay,
Yeah.
and I know what you mean, but there's a difference between trying to control your brand, put yourself in the best light. This is fine, and I look at it as the most important promises because
Hmm.
transparency is a promise if you think about it in a way.
That's true.
First, keep the promises you make to yourself. Because if you don't keep the promises you make to yourself, you don't have self respect. I'll give you an example. People that say they have low self esteem, they have low confidence. The reason why is
Hmm.
because they don't keep the promises they make to themselves. And we've all done this. I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow, and you don't go to the gym. I'm going to start eating healthy. You don't start eating healthy. Think of
Hmm.
it as the person in your brain is another person to understand it. So
Hmm.
you and me, I say to you, we're going to meet at the gym tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. And we both
Hmm.
say, okay, I promise I'll meet you. You go to the gym at 8, I don't show up. And you say, what
Not
the
being
fuck?
true.
You didn't come. And then later on, you call me and say, Ari, what the fuck? You told me you were going to come. And I say, oh man, I got tied up. And you say, okay, no problem. Meet me tomorrow. I said, no problem. I promise I'll meet you there tomorrow at 8 o'clock.
Hmm.
8 o'clock comes tomorrow. You're there. I'm not there. Then that time, what do you think about me? Am I a reliable person? Can you trust me? Now that's what you think about yourself every time that you tell yourself, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to start running again. I'm going to start. So you keep lying to yourself over and over and over again, and you lose personal integrity. And someone that doesn't have personal integrity doesn't even have the privilege of keeping promises to other people. Those are the people that aren't transparent. Those are the people that aren't vulnerable. The ones that learn to keep the promises they make to themselves are automatically transparent and vulnerable because there is power in vulnerability. And only people that have earned personal integrity promises to themselves can actually be vulnerable and know that true power lies in vulnerability, not in hiding.
That's so true, Ari. And I've never thought the way you just made me think. Well, you have a gift, Ari. You made me think that if I would question myself if I'm not following up to my own word that I give to myself, and definitely is lingering with personal integrity. If I'm lacking in that, it will definitely be reflective in my actions and
Beautiful.
would definitely
Yes.
hinder transparency to myself and to others as well.
This should be the focus. And once we build by the promises we make to ourselves, the promises to other people are easy.
Mhm.
The hardest promise, the hardest transparency is you with you.
That's so true. Yeah, indeed. Indeed. Ari, can I ask you a question from your experience? Role does ownership play in turning adversity into growth?
Everything. You have to take total responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Total responsibility, absolute responsibility. And remember, life isn't fair. It never
Mm-hmm.
was, it never will be. Okay? Period. There's
That's
always
true.
going to be things that happen. It's not fair. And
Mm-hmm.
you might say it's not your fault. Maybe not, but it is your fucking responsibility. And if it's not your responsibility, that means one thing. It means that you don't have control. And if you don't have
Mm-hmm.
control, you don't have anything. And so when you take control of your own life, you're saying, I'm the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul. I am the creator of my life. I am not a manager of circumstances. I'm a fucking victim. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to do what I can at least control my own thoughts. They asked Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela had been in prison now for, at the time, about 30 years, and Tony Robbins got to interview him. And I love Tony Robbins, by the way. Tony Robbins is a global treasure. And
Yes,
anybody out there
indeed.
looking to change their life, go to a Tony Robbins seminar and give yourself the gift of immersion with people, or listen to his audios, read his books. I've read all of them, attended his seminars. I did one of his virtual seminars 2 months ago in my living room. And the learning never stops, constant, never ending improvement, constantly never ending improving.
Mm-hmm.
So Tony talked to Nelson, to Mr. Mandela, and he said, how did you survive all those years?
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at him, he said, survive? I didn't survive. I prepared, because he knew
Wow,
either
that's
they were going to
powerful.
kill him or the country was going to revolt, or they were going to free him and he was going to
Mm-hmm.
have to lead. This is the exact way that we must all aspire in our own minds, is to take responsibility, even when you're imprisoned. Imprison your own mind, imprison with your body. You have the right to choose. You have the right to make a decision what it's going to mean. And pain and suffering aren't the same thing. Pain is when someone punches you and it breaks your arm. This is pain. Suffering is when you say, oh, it's me, this hurt, I'm so this, why did this happen to me? This is suffering. Suffering is a choice. In this, of course, there's people that are suffering all over the world, are in pain, that don't have a choice. This doesn't apply to them. There's 1 billion people that don't have running water. There's 300 million women that can't go to school because they're women. If you are blessed and privileged enough to be listening to this thing, two regular guys talking on a
Mm-hmm.
podcast, be able to hear something with a digital device, and you have your limbs, you have your faculties, you're privileged to have these luxuries, then you have a choice.
That's so true, Ari. That's so true. Thank you so much for sharing that wonderful words of wisdom and being able to help me think, and also our audiences think what mindset they have to set in terms of taking your own ownership for their personal development. The next question I'm going to ask you, I can just say by talking to you, you're a very humble person. You have a lot of humility. And I'm sure that translates into the work you do as well with your clients. But you're also very successful, and success comes with ambition. Can I ask you from your experience, how do you balance ambition with humility, especially after experiencing a major win or a major loss?
I am not humble in the sense of the word humble, that I think less of myself. I am in awe that I've been so blessed in my life. There's a difference where, yes, I've worked very hard, but in my business, in the construction business and in life, I see a lot of people that work hard, very hard, especially my construction workers. Insane. They get up, before the sun comes up and they work till the sun comes
Mm-hmm.
down. And I'm in awe of how many people have helped me. I'm in awe of the grace that I've had. I'm in awe that I got to be born in America. I'm in awe that I got to go to the school I got to go to. I'm in awe of the friends that I've been surrounded with, the staff that I have, the people who believed in our vision, of our investors, of our projects, because life is not individual sports. Life is team sports. Nobody accomplishes anything alone by themselves. And even if, yes, so my success maybe is not mine, it's shared. And I know from enough failure and enough success and enough things that I have so much gratitude for my teachers, for my teammates, for my partners, for all the different things that have come in, the wisdom that I've had from gifts from so many people in so many different ways, that me expressing it in a way that would appear not humble by the definition you're talking about just wouldn't be the truth. And so it's not that I think less of myself, I think less about myself. But this wasn't
Wonderful.
always the case. I was very arrogant. I was very angry. I was very self absorbed. I was very unhappy. And it wasn't until I started to understand the reality of the grace that exists in life, the gift that it is to have the, we have a heart in our chest, okay, that beats 100,000 times a day. And you don't even have to think about it. This is a gift, truly, and not in some woo woo word. This is a gift. And no, it's a fucking gift. We have this
Sure.
one life to do this thing, and it doesn't happen in a vacuum. And the minute you realize that, actually realize that, your whole world changes.
That's so true. Changing the mindset even actually helps us a lot, to think onto the life differently with a different set of eyes and not just being, feeling bad for ourselves, but to
Feeling bad
understand what we
serves
have.
no one.
That's so
Feeling
true.
bad serves no one. Your life,
That's so true.
if your life is about contribution, and that's how you
Mm-hmm.
build a big business, you serve more people. They asked John D.
Right.
Rockefeller, how did you become a billionaire? He said, easy. I made 1,000 people millionaires.
Wow. That's powerful. Yeah.
And this is the whole point. We are all equal as souls,
Hmm.
but we're not equal in the marketplace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoever
Yes. That's
gives
true.
more value, that's who gets the money.
Yes. That's so true. That's so true, Ari. Ari, I know from your track record, you're a winner. You have done so many investments. You run a multi-billion-dollar company. What does winning look like to you now compared to when you began your career in very early stage?
Winning now, before winning to me was maybe about how much money I made. It
Mhm.
was, if I was winning a deal, I was winning a business. Now winning is having control over how I feel, controlling my state. If I won the day, I kept my mind and my heart centered around my blessings. I kept more of my time centered around gratitude, around joy, around these feelings, because it's always a choice. Can you focus on what's wrong? Yeah. Or you can focus what's on right. They're both available. And the day that I spend more of my time focusing on what's right is winning.
Thanks for so clearly and precisely explaining that. I hope our listeners would have food for thought on that one. Ari, I wanted to ask you one last question, but not last in terms of being the last, but it's very important to me because I want to learn that from you. When you look back, which setback are you most grateful for and why?
I am most grateful. As you mean as a businessman or as a in life? Is it what category? Because there's been several setbacks in different
Mhm.
ways. I want to make sure I answer your question.
I would like to know in the perspective of your as from your personal development, but in association with your career growth. Sorry, I'm making it a bit
Yeah,
complicated,
it's
but
okay. I think in my career as a business person, and I talk about it in my book, I started a massive entertainment company in my 20s, and we basically did everything right. We signed the biggest act in the world, the Black Eyed Peas, for the Super Bowl in Dallas. We had Sports Illustrated sponsor it. We sold tables for $50,000, tickets for thousands of dollars. We used our minds, our bodies, our work ethic, our ingenuity, and had the biggest celebrities in the world sign up to come to our event. And then the biggest ice storm in the history of Dallas destroyed the profitability of the party. And then the following week, I had won a poker match against Hugh Hefner to rent the Playboy Mansion to throw a party at the Playboy
wow.
Mansion. A longer story. And then we had Snoop Dogg performing at the NBA All Star weekend at the Playboy Mansion. And then Legionnaires disease broke out at the Playboy Mansion. The party got canceled. I tell you, this happened within 1 week of each other. These two insane, out of the blue things. And it taught me before I became a professional investor that I needed to focus on what could go wrong to prepare to protect my clients, to protect their interests, and manage the downside and have risk management control instead of focusing on how much money we could make, how good things could go. Because if you focus for the downside and you prepare even for the unplannable, you keep extra cash, you have all the contingencies in place, you can then increase the probability of how much money or how much success you can have. It's called a hedge. It's called risk management, downside protection, whatever term. And I'm so glad that happened as a young man in my 20s. I went to sleep a millionaire and I woke up broke. I was a millionaire for about 7 or 8 hours in my 20s. And and I'm so glad that I did it then when the stakes were so low instead of doing it
Mhm.
now with billions and billions of dollars. When that's capital that belongs to firefighters and teachers and hardworking people that invest with us, trust us. It doesn't guarantee
Big
every deal is going to make
responsibility,
sense,
right?
but it does guarantee that I focus on my customers and the objective and not think about my own self interest.
Thank you so much, Ari. That was so wonderful talking to you. I know you're a very busy person, but you gave some of your very valuable time this evening to talk to me and my audience and support them a little bit, understanding what actually goes into a billionaire's mindset, their journey of seeing through all of that, and what actually it leads at the end, how people should actually think. This was a valuable episode, and I'm so happy to have you and discuss with you, Ari.
Thank you very much for having me, buddy.
Dear listeners, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you have a wonderful day. But again, I would really encourage you to go and check Ari Rastegar's website. I'll give the link into the description of the podcast as well as in the YouTube video. As well, if you have any questions for Ari, if you're interested in his company, please feel free to visit that as well. Have a wonderful evening. Take care. See you guys soon.
Thank you, brother.